Welcome to FaceItNet. You can see today I'm going to show you guys how to install Exchange Server 2019 on a Windows Server 2019. So of course you have to install Exchange Server 2019 on Windows Server 2019 or above, so you can't install in Windows Server 2016. So I have a domain controller which is running on Windows Server 2019, and that's called faceitnet.com.au is a domain name. So you can see here, this is the domain controller, which is faceitnet.com.au, and this is where I'm going to install the Exchange server. So this is part of the domain. So this is the member server. I'll confirm that this part of the domain and is joined to the domain. So if you go back here, you can see this is in the faceitnet.com.au as a member, right? So let's go and install Exchange server. Exchange server required a lot of additional services or additional plugins needs to be installed as a prerequisite. There are a lot more prerequisites to be installed. So what I have done is I've kept the prerequisites commands here on this text pad. This will be shared in the description, so you can just use this description commands, and also it needs some of those plugins. So one of them is Unified Communication Adapter. So I'm going to install the Unified Communication Management Adapter API. 4.0 is fine, but 5.0 is available, so you can install 4.5 or 5.5. So let's first install the Unified Communication Managed API runtime. So that's done, installed, and then we have Visual C++ redistributable file 2013. I'm going to install that. That's done, finish, quick install. And of course, this required you to install .NET framework, because Exchange server still required to have a .NET framework, right? You can install technically .NET frameworks through the server manager. If you go to the server manager and if you go to add remove features, roles and features, you can install through here. So if you go to add remove features, next, here you got 3.5, you can go click install. Sometimes this doesn't work, this will just stop, or you will get an error message. If you get an error message, you can always install this through a PowerShell command. So the PowerShell command, I have it here. So this is the PowerShell command: install Windows features, net framework core source, and then you have to specify the source file. This source file is the Windows operating system source file. So for you to do that, what you have to do is you have to mount the Windows 2019 image. So you can see here I have got the mount files here. So if you go back to this folder, so mount drive, so if you go to the D drive here, you see there's a file called sources. Inside sources SXS file. So here we have .NET 3.5 application, so we can install from this, right? But we can see the installation is going well here, so we don't need to go and use the PowerShell command. But if in case if you got error message that you can't install through a PowerShell command, always use the if you can't use the menu here, always go and use the PowerShell command. So it's installing the service, so let's wait to complete this one. So once this installation is done, I'm going to start adding the additional services. We need to prepare this domain, the Exchange server machine, to be able to install the Exchange application. So that is an application. Exchange server is an application that's run on top of Windows operating system. Yep, there you go. All right, so the next package or the application we need is the .NET 4.8. So I'm going to install .NET 4.8 as well. So we install Visual C++ redistributable 2013, Unified Communication Management Adapter API runtime 4.0, and then Net Framework 4.8. So this might require some time to install the services. So just let's wait and see how long it takes. So it's installing. So read. Yep. So you can see it's going to install the services, verified. while it install, I'm going to make sure that this is not connected to internet for the time being. It's nothing wrong with connecting to internet, but I just wanted to make sure that this is not connected to internet, just to avoid looking for the namespace itsnet.com.au from internet to communicate, right? So I'm just going to make sure I'm going to remove the second DNS option that I have given as an alternative DNS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just remove the alternative DNS so that the machine will resolve if I go to command prompt, and if I do ping itnet.com.au, it should give me the IP address of domain controller. Yep, perfect. So that's all done. That is all good. So we're quite good to go ahead and install these features, right? So we're going to install this option one after the other. So we have installed 1, 2, 3, and also .NET 3.5 is installed, and then we install these two commands. After this, I'm going to run these commands one after the other, right? So let's copy the command, copy, and wait for this to complete. So this might take some time, so I'm just going to pause the video at this point, and once it's completed, we'll continue from there. Right, now we can see the .NET 4.8 is being completed, installation has been completed. So let's finish and restart the machine to make sure that it's all done. So once it's restarted, we should be ready to go and install the Exchange server services, right? Keep in mind, Exchange will take a lot of time to complete the installation, so it might take at least 1 hour and 1.5 hours. Sometimes it depends on the computer, but minimum it might take around 45 to 1 hour to complete the Exchange server installation. So if we start now, it will take almost an hour to complete it, right? So let's log in. Right, here we have the additional features required to install. One of the other feature is RSAT-ADDS. So I'm going to just copy that and going to run it through a PowerShell command. So open up the PowerShell as an administrator, and let's paste that and hit. Right, so that's going to install. Once that is done, these are the services needs to be, or features needs to be installed. So let's copy that features again, come back, let's this one to finish. First we will wait to complete this task. Once that is done, well, yep, it's done, true, you don't need the restart, and the service is success. Let's go and add the other services, hit enter. It's trying to collect the data and started the installation, so 25% is done. So let that to continue. We will move on to the next one. Right, the next one is, once these services install, we're going to start to prepare the computer to work with the Exchange server. So these required Exchange server setup file. So what we need to do is, I'm going to now remove my the operating system file, and I'm going to mount my Exchange server 2019. So I have got a trial version of Exchange server 2019. Somewhere here, Microsoft, Windows Server, Skype for Business, Exchange Server 2019, Cumulative Update 10, right? So got the latest updated one, so attach that. So now my machine has got the Exchange Server. So we can see here that has got the Exchange Server 2019. So now these commands needs to be on the command prompt. So this need to be run on the, or you need to run these commands on the command prompt. So let's close this one. It's all done. It doesn't require any restart, so all good. Close this. All right, good. So let's copy the command, the next command, copy, open the command prompt, run as an administrator. I'm sorry, this needs to be from D drive. I'm going to run the command, hit enter. So it's now checking for the dependencies. Once the dependencies is done, prerequest is, for first it's going to copy the files. Once the files been copied, it will then check the prerequisites, which is like a schema admin, Exchange Server Administrator and all, to see whether it can also talk to the Active Directory server. So here we have the Active Directory. It will check whether I can talk to the Active Directory. Once it created everything, then it will just make sure that the schema would be prepared by then, right? So let's wait for this to complete. File copying is completed. Now should be checking for the prerequisites. Yep, performing Microsoft Exchange Server prerequisites, 96%. Fantastic, that's completed. So all the prerequisites is completed. Now it's extending the Active Directory schema to support the Exchange Server installation. So once that is done, I'll have to I'll have to prepare the domain controller with the organization name. So technically what happens if you don't run these commands, of course, when you double click and install the setup file, that will walk through, but this is sort of a preparation. So before we install the Exchange, we can just make sure all the commands is done. Then you just need to go click and run it. You got to do nothing after that and just wait to complete the services. So sort of like unattended setup. So I'm trying to prepare an unattended setup here, right? So let's wait to complete this task. %, 87. So I'm going to pause maybe the recording. All right, now we can see that's completed. So I'm going to run the next command. Click enter. And again, it's going to take the same thing. So it's going to take some time. So let's pause the video till we complete that, right? All right, we can see the prerequisite is analysis has been completed, and it tells you what is going to happen, and setup will prepare the organization for setup prepare schema and all. And now it's preparing the organization, right? So that's the first organization it's created. So once the organization is being created, we will move on to the next command. Prepare all domains to work with the Exchange. So yep, done, completed. Enter. Copying the file, and we'll check the prerequisites. That's it. Once that is completed, we will go back to the mapped Exchange Server folder. So this is where we have it. So checking prerequisites all done, completed, and prepare the domain. So earlier it's prepared the schema, now it's preparing the domain, right? Yep, all good. Everything is good to go. So I'm going to just close the command prompt and just double click on the Exchange Server, right? So it's going to load the Exchange Server installation wizard. So on the wizard, we will have nothing to do. We just say connect to internet and check, but you can, or if you have an old system, you can connect it, but mine is cumulative update 10. So I don't want to check from internet. Don't check internet right now. Next, it's copying the files. So it's copying the Exchange Server files from the image to the installation directory to install it or to run it from there, right? So let's wait for the copy to complete. This goes through technically around 13 steps, right? 13 different steps. So those steps will take time. So those are the steps. It's going to take time. So So initializing. Yeah, all good. Click next, and now accept the terms and conditions and license and use the recommended settings. If you wanted to use as a first server, then just use that. If you have got already experience, then you can go through the custom settings. Let's use the here we have the mail roles to install. If this is your first mail server, you will have mailbox role. If you tick the mailbox role, that will install the additional required mail roles, right? So you can see it's done. Automatically install the required Windows services as well, and then click next. So this is going to take almost about 5 GB space to install the domain exchange server. Malware scanning. Disable malware scanning is no means it's enabled, so the system will do a malware scanning and just checking the read line checks. Once it's done, it will start the installation. That will take almost 45 to 50 minutes, right? So it is the full-on email server, one of the top famous email server in the industry. Quite expensive, but that's a Microsoft server, right? So every large corporate industries is going to use it, right? Prerequisite is done, all checked, read lines, click next, and you can see now this goes through the installation process. It has to go through 13 steps. So step 2, but technically this is going to take so much time. So I'm going to pause here, and once the installation is done, I'll click and we'll continue from there. Now we can see that has gone to step 12 of 13. Now I'm finalizing this setup. So once that is done, technically we would complete all the Exchange server installation. Let's have a look what changes been done on this. So we can see here the Exchange server installed, Exchange admin center is being created and everything here to manage the Exchange server. And if you go back to the domain controller here, you will see on the domain controller, they could in the Active Directory services, we will have more users and groups. If you go under Active Directory, if you go under built-in here, users, now we can see, right, the system mailbox, right? So these are schema admins, these are created through the Exchange service. So you can see Exchange online accounts. So these all services been created through the Exchange server installation. So I'm just about to complete this. I'm going to pause it, and once this is completed, yep, that's 75%. It's good. It's completed to 75. So hold on there. Right. So now we can see the configuration is completed and says setup completed. So click finish. So that's it. The Exchange server installation is done. Now the question is, how do I access and configure Mailbox to each and every user? So before we go further into Exchange server configuration, let me just first explain the way to access the Exchange server. So if you go to the Exchange server, there's an administrative or Exchange server administrative center. So you can click on here. So that will load through the web browser, right? So I'm going to use the Internet Explorer web browser here. So it's going to use the Internet Explorer to open the Exchange Server Management Center. So there are two ways to manage this Excel panel. So you can use both these, right? And you can see there's a warning because there is no certificate service has been installed. So you get a warning message, and I'll just go ahead to the website, and that's it. It's going to load the Administrative Center page. So let's wait for that to load. So this is going to load the Administrative Center page. So since it's the very first time, it might take some time, but then later on it should go quicker, right? Meantime, you can load the same configuration from here. So you can see it's load through another way. So these are the two options or two ways to load the control panel for Exchange server, right? Yeah, click, go on the web page, not recommended. Go on to the web page, it's loading. it's taking some time, so I'm gonna wait here. So rather than just keep on recording, so I'm gonna just keep the recording here, pause the recording here. Oh, there you go. You don't need it. We can see it's loading. Now we can see the Exchange Server Admin Center is there. So just log into Admin Center. And give your domain administrator password and click login. It's alright. Click login. So that's going to load the admin center. So you can see this is also loaded. So I'll close that. Right, you can see the interface is loaded, and these are the options we have on the Exchange Admin Center. So that is for the Enterprise Exchange. So we have Mailbox, so that for the individual users, and Group Mailbox, Resources, Shared Folder. Right on the sides you have Recipients, Permissions, Compliance Management, Organization, which is your organizational attachment protection for malware protections, Mail Flow. It talks about the accepted domains and received connectors, sent connectors, email address policies, and then mobile devices to work with the mobile devices, public folders, servers, the maintaining the database and everything. And then finally we got the hybrid settings. So pretty much you will spend most of your time in the Exchange server to create and receive recipients. So we can go create here new mailbox. Here we have two options to create the two new mailbox. You can create it from the existing user accounts, or you can create a completely new user account here. Both ways they will be connected to the Active Directory. So here we can use the existing email user, or you can create a new one. If you use the existing user, click on Browse. So when you click on Browse, that will go to your Active Directory, and that will pick the user accounts from the Active Directory, right? Remember, we have got users here under IT and marketing, so we can see those usernames in this, right? It could be just because Exchange Server, the Internet Explorer, that might be the reason it's very slow. Let's wait. Here we go. We can see those users. We can already see the administrator account has got a mailbox, and if you look at the mailbox here, administrator@facetnet.com.au, but we are trying to create another mailbox for additional users, right? See here we can see those created users. So if you create one user, right, save, that's it, the mailbox is created for that specific user. Now the question, once you created the mailbox, how do you access these mails? Remember, this is using a URL, a localhost /ECP, but the same way you can access the mailbox, but the URL is not going to be ECP. What happens is you just log out here, right? Go to the web browser, make sure that you log out this one. So what we can do is now type a URL localhost -OWA Outlook Web Access, right? So the difference is the previous one was ECP Exchange Control Panel. This is Outlook Web Access. So this is where we can access the Outlook services, which is public Outlook. Remember, you know the public Outlook interface. So we're going to see almost similar interface here. So I can log in as a user, and the user password is going to set up the user account with time zone, language, and stuff like that. So click sign in. So after you click sign in, we can see that will load the interface. So you can see it's asked for time zone. So select the time zone. So since it's Australia, Melbourne, so I'm going to +10. Time zone UTC +10. Say go to +10 and click save. Alright. So that will load your email mailbox. This is unusual slowness. Technically, this is not going to be slow like this. It could be just the restart is a way, because remember I changed the RAM size from 2 GB to 6 GB. Maybe that could be that may not be applied, so that might be the reason it's not faster. But once it's done, maybe I can increase it to 8 GB to make it more. Yeah, let's make it to 8 GB. I'll click on 8 GB. So now the system has got an 8 GB RAM. Right, so that should load faster. So pretty much it looks like, for me, it's like the browser, right? So I can download and install Chrome. So Chrome will work faster, but pretty much remember later on we're not going to really use the web browser. We're going to use the email client software, right? Which could be maybe Outlook software or Thunderbird or EM client. You can use one of those email client to configure these email accounts. So still it's working on. There you go, the mailbox. So pretty much you can see the user has got the mailbox here. You can click on new to write a new email. So if you click on that new, that will set up write a new email account. Right. Right, so that's it. The basic email address or the basic email exchange server configuration. All right, thanks for watching, guys.